Sono Angelo Moratti, questo è 10 Minutes to Inspire. Good morning, Ash.
Good morning, Angelo.
It's great to see you. I guess you lived in the past few years between America and Italy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic
right.
experience, I can get that, right?
Yeah.
So what is the experience that best defines you?
I would say the experiences that define me are ones where there's not much planning involved, where I'm trying to figure out my own reasoning along the way. For me, that has been sort of manifested in starting a few companies where we had a pretty good idea at the start of what we wanted to do, but we figured out a lot along the way. And it also is manifest in, my daily workouts, my bike rides and whatnot. I don't really plan, certain sessions. I don't really plan certain routes. I have a library of things in my head that I pick from, but I decide on the day. And, despite from the outside looking like I'm someone who's really goal driven, I'm actually not. I'm very real time. And so the experiences that sort of drive me are those. And, bringing it back to AI for a second, for me, it doesn't make sense to sort of work with technology in a way where you are super goal driven. It makes sense to sort of bring it to you if it's useful to you in the moment. Otherwise, it can sort of take over you.
Is there a particular figure or person that in your life has inspired you and has kind of led to do what you like doing?
Yeah, definitely my nonno, definitely my grandfather. And, all of my family are really inspiring in some ways to me. And I think, part of that is proximity. Like if you're just close to someone, you get to see them in detail and how they actually think and work and what they value and their integrity. But you're speaking of my nonno for a second, who's thankfully still with us. He's inspired me in lots of ways because, one, he just gets on with it. He just makes a decision, sees how it works out and moves on to the next decision. He doesn't worry too much about planning the perfect set of actions. He doesn't worry too much about making sure everything is set up perfectly ahead of time. He accepts that we don't know everything and that we just have to try to get information from the world. And so he just gets on with it and he's constantly doing things. He's still 90 and working and cycling and doing all these wonderful things. And then the other thing is, he has a core set of values that he sticks to over time. And I think the combination of these two things is really important. You have like a really strong base set of values that you stick to, but everything else you're very adaptable on.
And anybody from the outside world, was there any figure from the outside that you watched on TV or something? I'm sure that we're all inspired by outside, figures and characters, right?
Yeah, it's quite funny because I think I've never really been one for idolatry. I've always found that people that are really far from me, I've always found them really hard to understand because you can't quite put their actions together. You can't quite figure out if their actions are consistent because you only see a part of their life. And so this idea of idolizing someone that you don't fully understand or you don't totally know has always been a bit weird to me. Ever since I was a kid, it's been strange. And I didn't really have heroes growing up that I didn't know that weren't, my own family or a really close friend or something like that. And I also idolize like close friends, not just family. So the answer to your question is sort of no. However, in an attempt to not totally avoid the question, I think Pope Francis is someone I really idolize because he has a very high integrity. He leads a very high integrity life, and he has a very unique perspective on the idea of poverty. And he's got his own philosophy around what poverty means from all angles, to live it, to serve for it, to improve the status of people who are living in it. He's got a really, really unique perspective on that, and he really does everything he possibly can to live by it.
Well, I totally agree with you. He's been a fantastic example also for the recent history of the Catholic Church as well.
Yeah.
He's turned the cards around.
Yes.
And is there an image that comes into your mind that probably defines innovation?
For me, innovation, when I think of it as an image, I weirdly think of people feeling good. Like I think of like a healthy person. I think of someone who, may have been sick before but is now better, someone who's fully recovered from something. for me, innovation is like a picture of someone just living really well. And it's funny because living well is sort of like a homeostatic concept. It's like, how we're probably meant to be most of the time. But the reality is most of us are not. And we need very innovative things to pull us out of problems, like pull us out of disease states or pull us out of really weak economic states or unfortunate economic situations. We need technology and innovation to pull us out of that. And so for me, the picture, the image that comes to my mind, sort of weirdly when I think about innovation, is just like a really healthy person living well.
That's interesting. Going back to Pope Francis, I guess our ideal world would be on one side to have the empathy and wisdom of Pope Francis, and on the other side have the innovation and the development that there is now, especially with artificial intelligence. If you can combine artificial intelligence on one side with empathy and wisdom on the other side, then our society has a chance to work.
I really believe that. I really believe that. And to just build on that, I think this is actually the only way forward. A lot of people are very scared of artificial intelligence because it doesn't have empathy or wisdom. But the thing is, it does have empathy and wisdom if we give it to it, if we correct it, if we work with it, if we train it, if we regulate it, if we do all these things, it does. Otherwise, it's just a random algorithm that, can go off in weird directions. But it can, and I really think that's the only way forward, where we combine these two things.
It's funny about human beings, they find it hard to stay in the driving seat. The history of humankind, tells us that, we've developed great things, but then some way along the way, we lost, we lost the track. And that's the problem with us. So I think, obviously the object of this seminar is to combine emotion and tech. So the combination of these two things will probably create a better society. Where do we start, you think? Because on one side, obviously, the technological development just goes by itself. It has a quantum leap. On the other side, the wisdom and empathy has a very slow and constant growth, but it's very slow. So we gotta keep the pace of those two.
Yeah, that's a really interesting sort of dichotomy or contrast that you paint. And I think the way that we do it, where it starts, to your question, is with design. And that's why we're sitting here in Milan, because there's a lot of talent around design here. And what is design in this context? Design is designing a way to very easily communicate, to translate, to transpose, to move the concepts, the desires, the goals, the intentions of people into machines, and the other way. And, that's what's really exciting about what's happening now in 2023, is we're starting to get these interfaces that are really easy for people to use and interface with AI. And that's going to let us impute our goals, communicate our goals. And that, I think, will help us sort of pull these two things back into line, put them in harmony with each other again.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would add to that as well, we need better leadership. Because in the last 10 years, we've been lacking the kind of leadership that the world needs with such a huge disruption that there is right now. And we do need, the same kind of strength that you said, your nonno gave to you, right? That kind of old-fashioned way of living life, which that would probably lead to a better world.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think there needs to be a lot more awareness, a lot more clarity, awareness of what this technology can do, clarity around what our values are as a society and what we really want to stick to and what we're willing to, be flexible about. That's what a leader can provide. And that will actually quite easily, and I think quite naturally, flow through to how people develop technology if we have that leadership in society, if we know what we're aiming for, if we know what we can and can't do, and if we have an easy way for innovators to communicate with governors. Because at the moment, that's really hard, because the governors just aren't educated enough about the technology, and the innovators are just giving up on having any clear direction from the leadership. So I agree that would really improve the situation.
Thank you for being here. This is Tech Emotion, 10 minutes to inspire. It's been fantastic.
Thanks, Andy.
Ciao.
Ciao.